And thank you very much for joining us here on this last episode of the Manifesto Tracker. And it is just apt that we're ending with the security debate. With just a few days to go before the December 7th election, this is possibly the biggest conversation in town right now. This word, security. Related to that is peace. If you don't have security, you have chaos. That won't be peace at all. And that is why we're going to look at this. The two main parties going into these polls have made commitments in their manifestos when it comes to this particular area. The biggest test yet will be the December 7th elections. In fact, in Ghana, the biggest security test is our elections. It is that proves how strong you have been as an incumbent in building, equipping the security agencies and forces in this country. And we're going to look into what both the NDC and MPP had done in the past, what they're promising to do going forward, analyzing it. After which, when we are done with the analysis, as you can see, Adam Bonai is with me because he's going to be joining me with analysis. He put this together, scrutinizing the two parties' manifestos, and he's joining me, as we always do on Manifesto Tracker, of course, to help me do the analysis. He's the Chief Executive Officer of the Security Warehouse Limited, and I'm grateful that he could join me on this last episode. Mr. Bonai, you're no stranger to PowerPoint presentations in the studio.
Right.
This might be the second time you're doing this.
The IGP one?
Yes, we did the IGP one at the time when there was a lot of speculation. We sort of analyzed all the possible candidates, and he joined us to do that. Let's go into this because there's a lot to go through for you tonight. Remember, he put this together for us to analyze. And you put this there. I'm assuming this is a summary of all our security agencies in this country.
Right. So okay. You have national security, you have the military, you have the Ghana police, you have prisons, you have fire, you have immigration, and the customs division of the GRA, the Supreme Court ruling, actually identified them as members of, the security setup, the security architecture of this country. And so you have the customs, as part of it. Yes, even though sometimes most people are not aware they are supposed to be.
Within the context of Manifesto Track analysis, the key thing to watch is if your manifesto is comprehensive, then it must touch on almost all of these key agencies. Because again, for the elections, yesterday there was special voting. The people who voted, majority of them were members of these agencies, correct?
Yeah, right.
Because of the importance they'll be playing, the important role they'll be playing in election day. If you are putting together a manifesto that's comprehensive on security and you don't have it tackling all these areas, then you're falling short. And when we go into the analysis, you see which of the two parties have a more thorough, comprehensive approach to dealing with these agencies shortly. It all becomes very apparent because the facts are facts. They speak for themselves. Yeah. You cannot embellish it. As they say, facts are sacred. Opinions, of course, anybody has it. It's like gnosis. Let's start with the MPP. The MPP, some key promises made in 2016. This is important because you're going back to 2016 to look forward. You built 2 new police hospitals in Sunyani and Bogatanga. What's the status of this?
Not done.
Yeah.
The reason why we needed to do this, the MPP's 2016 manifesto, because we voted for the MPP based on, the 2016 manifesto.
True.
And so we couldn't have done this, Derek, who, largely helped me do this. We couldn't have done this without pulling some of the promises from 2016, on the part of the MPP.
Absolutely accurate.
Which
is something, as we always say on Manifesto Tracker, these things go to track record.
Correct.
If you did promise it in 2016, you've had 4 years to execute it.
Right.
It's a question about tracking the last 4 years. Have you done what you said you will do?
Right.
Because that is key. So this verdict hasn't been done.
No. Yeah.
Build 2 police training schools. Again, I believe hasn't been done.
No, it hasn't been.
So that tells you where we are with it. We'll hear after this the conversation with the minority spokesperson on security in Parliament on these 2 things. The beauty about this is he is the chairman of the Defense Interior Committee in Parliament.
Majority.
Sorry.
The majority spokesperson.
He's actually the chairman, so he's not
chairman,
a spokesperson.
Yes, he's the chairman.
He's the chairman of the committee. he will know, because this massive, if they're going to build, it has to come to Parliament for
Right.
some sort of approval. And so why hasn't it come?
Yeah.
He'll probably tell us. And then Agaga will also join us. On the flip side, he speaks for the minority in Parliament on things like that. Also, they again they promise to provide equipment for use on high-rise buildings in fire incidents. That doesn't appear to have happened.
No, the last one which was provided was done under the late Professor Mills. And so the timetable we have can go up to just 5th floor. It can, so all the tall buildings we have here, if there was fire and you are in the 6th floor, you can guarantee that they cannot rescue you. And so I assume 2016, the idea was to include, what do you call that, go up to about 10 or 12, but that, hasn't been provided yet.
Okay, so and they also promised to build 2 precinct service hospitals, 1 each in the southern and northern sectors of the country. Again, I guess the verdict there is
no, it hasn't been
done.
Correct.
Okay, so you begin to see, when it comes to security, what that is. But we'll come to what they've done shortly. The MPP, and this is something that I noticed also, right? If you come to the actual promises for 2020, there was specific promises were missing.
Yeah.
Right? I found 2 though, but again, I get your point, it's vague. They say they will continue with the barracks regeneration policy to put in accommodation for the military.
Right.
They will continue, which means something that they are doing. It's not a new promise.
Right.
Okay, and you see that in the accounting. So that is one of the key things you notice about the NPP manifesto.
Yeah.
Nothing. It's more of the building on what they've done.
Yes.
And going. So let's go into the specifics. So on enhanced police's cyber security and cyber fighting capability, what they said, this is what they claim they've done, right?
Yes. Computer emergency response team. The center has been set up with the NCA. Yes, something like that has been done. And then training of police on cybersecurity, also ongoing. Yes, so you have my good friend, Dr. Champson. He heads the cyber police unit. And I must say, they have done well with the limited resource they have been able to do well. And we now have a unit under Minister, what's the name? Honorable Eslewusu's ministry, where you have, Dr. Nchibu Siakon, who is in charge of that unit for, cyber and all that. And so they collaborate largely with Dr. Champson and his team at the Ghana Police Headquarters, with regards to training and making sure, police officers are abreast with, new technology and how to deal with fraudsters largely.
In this current period, cybersecurity is such a key.
Yes, it's key.
Key thing to watch in security architecture everywhere. They again promised to curb proliferation of small weapons, including incorporating the protocols on small arms and light weapons into our domestic law. There's a lot that the National Small Arms Commission has done in this area with the 2,000 illicit arms that we've seen destroyed recently.
Well, but if you go into detail, you realize that, yes, some work has been done, but if you listen to, those from the Small Arms Commission, they tell us that, out of the number that licensed weapons, the millions, you have just about 40,000 who come back to renew. And so there's a deficit of firearms in the hands of people that either have not been renewed or, they are dead, something. And so there's a lot of work to be done there. Now, almost 8 out of violent crimes that are committed, the use of firearm is involved.
Okay, that is a scary prospect. That's why that has been key for people to fix this. And they've also an ongoing exercise to mark weapons of the security agencies and to collect and destroy seized illicit arms. This is key because we've seen that in recent times, some police officers have been arrested, some of them incarcerated and tried for renting out their officially issued weapons for criminals to use in armed robbery. And
also, weapons just going missing. So police officers, yes, I know some of them undergoing, investigation trials and all that to ensure that the issue of firearms that are getting missing in armories are dealt with. And you remember before the current IGP When he used to be the deputy, before the moment he took over, one of the first interdictions he did had to do with some firearms that were missing here and there. Yeah, so
I mean, what surprises me is why are we now marking these weapons? I mean, if it is issued for official police, whatever use, it should be marked already. I mean, why are we having a conversation where we are now marking it? I mean, everywhere in the world I watch the movies, and the gun is so marked. When you shoot it, like you can account for.
Ballistically, you should be able to know which.
But also the weapon itself, right? I mean, so when I saw this, I was amazed that in 2000, we are now talking about marking official police weapons.
Because the laws haven't changed for probably the last 50 years or so.
I mean, that's definitely worrying. You could imagine how many of it has been used that we obviously didn't know before. Pardon me. In addition, we've seen the organize an international capacity building program for officers from selected institutions on implementation of the arms control instruments, which is key. I want to, because there's a lot in there. Expand and resource marine police. This is also an important part, right? They say the police service has procured 2 marine boats. This must be something that will be enhance the capacity if indeed has been done.
Yes, procurement done, but the Marine Police Unit have not received it.
Okay. Well.
They haven't received it. They are still undergoing construction in Istanbul, Turkey.
Okay.
So they have procured, part payment made, and we actually spoke to the company that is manufacturing, producing that in Istanbul, Turkey. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so that's another key thing to watch and keep an eye on going forward. Now, the police recruitment process, always a problem. I mean, they provide an online application system to try and deal with this particular problem. I don't know how much of this has happened specifically.
It worked, but I think somewhere along the line there were issues. I think they still use it, but there are a lot to be done with regards to that.
So that's okay. Yeah. Recruitment into Ghana Police Service has increased overall. I mean, they claim from 32,000 the end of 2016 to 37,000, raising our police to citizen ratio to 1:108. This is still below. I mean, it's still too high if you look at the UN standard.
And if you have to put that in context, that is a national average. If you take community or district to regional averages, if you take just next door neighbor, Kasua, you have 1 to almost 2,500 citizens.
Oh, goodness.
And so if you use the national average, then you would think the number is good.
You're getting the accurate picture.
You understand. So you need to do proper sampling.
In other words, this ratio is even worse.
Yes, I mean, the UN accepted ratio is 1:500. Yes. And so it's something that we should be able to work on quickly.
Okay, I mean, so their promise is recruit an additional police officers target, meeting the UN ratio. So this is what they promised.
Yes.
But this is what they have delivered.
Yes.
I mean, so this is important. The promise was to achieve this ratio.
Yes.
In the 2016 manifesto.
1:500.
But what they have actually achieved is 1:800. I mean, I like numbers because
that's 308 short
of what the target was,
which is a lot.
Numbers don't lie. Yeah. I mean, they tell you a good story. So the question is why, and when do they hope to meet that?
Yeah.
I mean, so of course, they also to provide each district with a fire service station. 17 stations have been completed. A provision of additional 5 fire stations ongoing. There's one thing building the infrastructure, and there's another thing providing the tenders, right? The fire tenders. That is really what you need.
Yes. Because when there is fire, you need the tenders to move.
Yeah.
And so the tenders are very important. Once they are not there, then we just have a building. We just have a building with personnel.
In there. I mean, let's look at so they upgrade equipment of armed service personnel, which is very important.
Yeah.
You see some of the arms and weapons that the police use, and you marvel. It's so old and outdated. I wonder you can even cock it.
No, some of them. I mean, it's not everything I have to say. It's for security reasons. I don't have to say everything. Yes.
I can't. I mean, looking at them will tell you the story itself. I mean. They look very, very old. I mean, but the government says they put a lot of investment into this. They've also procured and commissioned 138 operational vehicles for the Ghana Armed Forces, they say.
For the Armed Forces, I think a lot has gone in there.
Okay.
A lot has gone into the Armed Forces. So I must say, yes, for the Armed Forces, I've seen a lot of movement of equipment and all that coming in, yes, so yes.
Okay. I mean, so that is the NPP accounting for what they've done. We have procured and commissioned 50 buses for Ghana Armed Forces as well. This is in tandem with what you're just talking about there in that area. 11 command vehicles, again, still in the Armed Forces, equipping them. NACOB now is a commission, something they had promised.
It's an authority.
Yes, an authority now. To deal with narcotics in the country. I mean, I must confess, though, I mean...
it is an authority, I think so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be a time when narcotics was a big deal in Ghana. The frequency with which we now have issues of narcotics has dwindled, at least from the news point of view. Yeah,
the guy there is doing well. I mean, the guy heading the place is trying his best, and so, I mean, to the extent that sometimes he gets into, he gets into one issue or the other with some of his colleagues. You remember the issue in Aflao where they seized some drugs and, they were, looks like some crossfire here and there with the customs guys. We don't know what happened to that case, but I think that, yes, they've done a lot to reduce, trafficking drugs into this country.
Into this country.
Yeah.
And if you go to the next slide, we'll get to see, for example, that they've also said they rehabilitate and upgrade the living conditions and quarters of security agencies. This is key for the police and everybody else. In fact, government said the construction of 320 housing units for Ghana Police Service is ongoing. I've seen something that looks pretty abandoned if you pass.
Yes, it's
still ongoing
largely because the contractors haven't been paid.
Okay, we'll get clarity on this from Seth Champson, who will join us shortly. Ghana Armed Forces, you say they've been taken care of largely. The 250 unit housing is being constructed for them as well.
They've commissioned some of them completed, and there are a lot of, for the armed forces, yes, a lot of movement in there.
Okay, I mean, we also have, projects government is saying is doing for the prisons as well. I want to quickly touch on the National Democratic Congress. What you will see when you come to the NDC is just how comprehensive their promises are in there. The NPP has a lot, allowance of security personnel. This is very key, right? For those who travel on UN peacekeeping missions increase. But I wonder here, doesn't the UN take care of this?
No, the UN, you see, with the military, is the reason why, the military is able to do a lot. The military pays the money, the UN pays the money to, what's the name?
The Ghana Forces?
The Ghana Armed Forces, and then they pay to, so they pay higher than this, and they pay, something less to them. Okay. And so that is usually the trend.
Arrangement.
Yeah, that is usually the arrangement.
Okay.
In the past, it was lower, but now it's gone up.
Okay. Well, I mean, so that tells a story, but there are some promises that were made but not captured in manifesto, highlighted.
Right.
Provision of the body cameras for the police.
Yes. That they've, I mean, we are told they are in town, but I haven't seen it. I haven't seen a police officer who is wearing a body camera. And some of us have requested that during this election, can we see it being used?
Yeah.
So that at least we'll test it and see. So we can make a case for every police officer in this country to have one. Yeah.
And then I've heard a lot about this purchase of a helicopter to fight crime. I haven't seen it yet too, but government had said that.
Yeah. It's been ongoing for a while. I'm sure the chairman of the defense and my good friend, I'm sure he's going to be talking.
This we have seen. I mean, we are beginning to see rollout, right? Provisional CCTV to all 216 district police stations. No, right? What I'm seeing is the CCTVs in our communities. In
some selected areas. But this, no.
No, we haven't seen this yet.
Yes, we haven't.
The police stations, no.
You remember when Inspector Shilevi...
Was it Kwabenya?
Yes, Chief Inspector Shilevi was shot at, and, the vice president, I think at his funeral or so, promised that every police station was going to be hooked to a CCTV. That has not happened. Maybe yet to happen.
Yeah, but I was saying, I mean, if you drive through town recently, you see the streets are being flooded with cameras all over the place. And I find that to be pretty impressive. If you've traveled before, you appreciate that quite well. This is the NDC. NDC, I must say, we counted 39 promises on security alone.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Very comprehensive.
Very comprehensive. Ghana Police Service established one police station and barracks in each district where there is none. This is a bold promise. The question is, how much is this going to cost us, and can you do it in 4 years?
Well, depending on what probably, I'm sure James should be able to speak to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because he used to be the Deputy Interior Minister. He will join us shortly. Yeah. Also, revamp and resource and equip the police driving school in Kumasi is a key one. Promote and use a yearly promotion plan to grant amnesty to police personnel who privately acquired additional qualification from recognized tertiary institutions. The thing about promotions is so politicized.
So here, you have a large number of young officers, lance corporals, who have gone to the university on their own to acquire degrees, masters, bachelors, masters, and all that. And excuse me to say, within the police service, is useless. And so I do believe that this has been put there to grant some sort of amnesty, because at the moment the practice or the regulation is that if you acquired this and you were not given a steady leave or you were not permitted to do it, it stays in your locker or stays in your wardrobe somewhere, and it cannot be used. So this is there for them, yes.
Okay, and also expand the level of involvement of the police service in the UN. This is key,
yes.
Right? I mean, it's for our international presence, yes. Also create a directorate for DOFSU.
Yes.
To be headed by Director General. So you're given it a more prominent place.
At the moment, it's a unit.
Yes.
So once it becomes a department, then
it must come with more resources.
Yes, comes with a lot of resources.
Because of the importance of that. Yeah. Complete construction of the DOFSU headquarters. Again, ties in with that. Complete the police hospital project, which we've seen that appears to have stalled. We'll get a clarity on this shortly.
Yes, I'm sure.
Appears to have stalled. Also construct a new police hospital also. This is similar to something that the NPP had promised also, in terms of doing this. Some work is happening here already.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's why it says complete.
Somebody must complete it.
Yeah.
Some government, somehow, should complete it.
Yeah.
And do more.
Now, increase women representation in the police service. This is an important one. And then they create DOFSU units in police. So you see how the NDC manifesto is a bit gender sensitive.
Yes.
Gender sensitive in terms of the security.
Right.
Interventions that they are trying to put in there for the police. Now, if you come to the military, right? They say empower 48 engineers regiment to construct barracks and living accommodation for security personnel. This is key for me because everybody's talking about accommodation, but how do you deliver it? They have the capacity to do this themselves. Give them the resources, I think.
It's one thing I've been saying that we kind of have a misplaced priority in this country. What the work we put our military officers to do, the law doesn't even permit them to do that. And so, for instance, you have the engineers regiment, and these are highly trained professionals who should be constructing roads, building buildings, instead of putting them to be doing patrols. And so, if we can, retool these guys and re-channel their energies into doing this, I think that sometimes the confrontation we see, where you see a military officer yanked out of the street and punched here and there and handcuffed, that was going to stop.
Absolutely. And the NDC has a bit more looking at the promises that they put forward.
We can run through them quickly.
Yeah, I mean, construct housing units, again, still addressing the accommodation issues, establish a new military training and recruitment academy in northern sector.
There's none in the northern sector
currently. Build the military hospital at Ho, Bolga, and Sishi. There's one that was promised in Ashanti region, right?
Yeah.
Another military hospital, which I understand is still being constructed.
Partially, yeah.
Almost built. We'll look into that. Build a Veterans Referral Hospital. They also want to expand and equip the Field Engineers Corps to undertake national emergency projects.
Yeah.
Okay.
They would have been assisting NADMO and all that to make sure when there are floods, we have, like the Americans will have the guards, who are supposed to be doing some of this thing.
This is important with the implement the Ghana Prison Decongestion Project. But the point about how, I mean, it's been going on for some time. We haven't still seen any big investment in the prisons to do this. Because it's a case of infrastructure,
right?
Really. Prisons commence a program to establish open camp prisons. Going to take large-scale agriculture. The key question I have, should we go the way of the US, for example, and outsource, bring private prisons on board, get people to build it? That's what happens in the US.
Yeah.
And they run it for the state.
We can do it.
I mean, but it has questions there. we'll put it to the of course, our guests when they join us. Immigration service is key. Provide border patrol units with surveillance equipment, build housing units for them. Also, so you see that a housing question is key for all the agencies that we've seen, and both parties promise to do this for them. I mean, you strengthen the use of ICT for operations of the Ghana Immigration Service, maintain the Cap 30 pension scheme.
That's a big thing.
Yeah,
it's a big thing because the current MPP government said it was going to restore. Because at the moment the police, the prisons, and all these people have been taken off by law from Cap 30. So it was of this current parliament. My brothers, the current parliament was supposed to restore it. Per a statement made on the floor of parliament, one of the ministers made it, but it looks like that has not happened. And so before this, presentation, I had a lot of officers who were asking about what's going to happen because that hasn't happened. And so mine is that this Cap 30 thing, someone would have to restore the Cap 30 for the officers because they are worried.
Like it.
Yeah,
I mean,
their pension.
Implement the recent Supreme Court ruling, a recommendation of the Constitutional Review Commission regarding the security status of the Customs Division.
Yeah.
And restore its rightful place. These promises will go to appeal to the 109,000 people who voted yesterday.
Yeah.
If you've read it.
I know. But some of them are still going to be voting on the 7th. Remember, we have missing names. I don't know if did you vote yesterday?
No, I didn't vote yesterday.
You didn't have your name there.
No, I mean I missed the registration.
Okay, so a lot of them are going to be voting on the 7th. So as we speak, Mami Atiwa and the rest. I mean, there are a lot of the officers are watching and they are saying we are going to be seeing the
except that the minority will vote on December 7th. I mean, because yesterday the EC tells us that they have more than 80, almost 90% turnout.
No, that is not the primary. What do you call that? Those whose names those who were told initially, or those who couldn't find their names initially, didn't go there at all.
Yeah.
And so if you take what the EC is saying, then you are going to be misled because then some names were missing, and so those people didn't appear at all. And so it was yesterday, some of us realized there was a secondary missing names. And so if you take that, then you might think that,
NADMO is important to me because one of the key problems of NADMO has been the politicization.
Yeah.
But I see that both parties do not address making NADMO a very professional disaster management organization.
Right.
It's simply about strengthening NADMO, modernizing the operations. But the key major problem of NADMO is making it a very professional agency run by professionals and not politicians.
Right. Because the politicians, it needs to be taken away from the politicians.
And give it to those who know it.
Those who can.
Okay.
Correct.
Adam, thank you very much. We're going to be joined shortly by the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament, and also we'll be joined by the ranking member on that committee also, that is Seth Champson, and his ranking member, former Deputy Interior Minister, all joining me for this conversation. We'll start by looking at the security, a question and analysis of the security before the elections in the next few days. Stay with me. Thank you very much for staying with us here on PM Express. My guest in the studio now is Seth Champson. He is the chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee in Parliament. Joining me via Zoom is his colleague, ranking member, James Agaga, who used to be the Deputy Interior Minister. He joins me from his constituency. Hello, James. I know you are unable to be here because you are in the thick of trying to hold on to your seat. So thanks for taking time off with a few days to go to join us. We'll try and fix the audio so he could get to interact with us. But I want to start with you, Seth Champson. I want to start with a few days to go to the elections. The obvious question that many people are asking is the security ready, the security apparatus ready for the elections? We've seen the IGP travel, we've seen the police and military march across the street just to show that they are ready. But are they really ready in terms of the preparations as a chairman of the Defense and Interior Committee? Normally elsewhere in the US, you'll be getting regular briefings. I doubt if you do here in Ghana.
Thank you very much, Evans. And let me thank you for the opportunity. I think that a couple of weeks back, the Inspector General of Police, who happens to chair the National Elections Task Force, made a statement to the whole nation of their preparedness and the people he's putting together.
In fact, he came to Parliament to brief you.
Exactly. He made a statement before he even came to Parliament to make a statement to us as well. And in your analysis, as I observed, the team who forms and constitute the National Election Task Force were the ones who were listed in your analysis. So all members of that institution who have been drafted to form part of the Election Task Force, over 62,000 in number. So for the first time in our history since this fourth Republican dispensation kicked in, this is the highest number we've experienced. And I believe, by every stretch of it, that it's going to be peaceful.
Okay. Based on?
Based on what I have been told, I've had occasion to sit in a security dialogue meeting where the entire architecture of deployment has been offered us over the 33,000 plus polling stations which will be voting on Monday, and the various flashpoints which have been cited by the security services. They are putting all in their plan for deployment, and I'm very positive that we will.
So I asked this question. Do we have okay, we have him on phone now. That is the ranking on the phone now. Mr. Gaga, thank you for joining us again. What's your assessment of the readiness of the security apparatus for Monday?
Well,
I can hear you, yes. Hello, Mr. Gaga?
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Well, Evans, thank you very much. Well, before we left Parliament, the Inspector General of Police appeared together with some other security personnel to brief us on the readiness of the police and other sister security agencies to provide security on the day of elections and after. Well, I think some steps have been taken. When I arrived in the constituency, I noticed that at the district level, the Election Security Task Force actually started preparing themselves. They held quite a number of meetings, and I happened to attend one of them. So they gave us the assurances that on the day of election, the district police commander is going to be responsible for the Election Security Task Force at the level of the districts. And at the regional levels, the regional commanders would be in charge. And at the national level, the IGP himself would be directly responsible. If the strategies rolled out are adhered to, Evans, I believe we should have an incident-free election. Oftentimes, the problems we have had is that when the professional in the security setup are directed by politicians who are very, very neck deep in the electioneering process, it causes problems for all of us. In 2016, we used the same security architecture to police the election. It was virtually incident-free, in 2016. And so we're all looking up to the IGP and his men. Their integrity is at stake here. I trust they will do a professional job, and all of us would be happy.
Recently, Mr. Chairman, there was a Yaa Bakubori conflict. Violence, just 2 days ago. Places were vandalized. The MPP radio station was vandalized, and NDC people were injured. People have been arrested. This is days to the election. That sort of thing definitely would raise a bit of concern for people with days on election.
If you were minded, I talked about flashpoints. So all these things are all factored into the original plan. And it is not new. It has happened sometimes. So that's why we are always advancing advocacy that this is clearly an exercise of taking a decision. It is not a battle. We just would use words to say whatever we want to say, but it is not for anybody to apply and use arms. This is not for this type of exercise that we are going for. And so it's unfortunate that it did happen that way. But I'm sure the security services are on top of these things.
Okay. I mean, Ms. Gaga, you are in Bulsa South. I mean, you've seen a lot of this in and around your region and others. This Yaa Bakubori thing was a concern. There are so many flashpoints in the regions up north, upper west, upper east, now northern regions that are now being separated. Do you have any concerns going into the elections about some of these key areas re-erupting into violence?
Yaa Bakubori is a neighboring constituency. Mine is actually the Bulsa North. The Bulsa South
Bulsa North, yes.
Borders Yaa Bakubori, and that is Dr. Park's constituency.
Yes.
Yes. Yaa Bakubori is noted as a flashpoint. No question about that. I think in the previous election, there were some incidents of violence in that constituency. But all I can say is that the security agencies need to exhibit some neutrality in their quest to deal with the situation in Yaa Bakubori. I think so far we have not heard about any or the security agencies taking sides in the violence that erupted. It is my expectation that those who fomented trouble a few days ago, some of whom have been arrested, would be thoroughly investigated, and those found to have instigated or inspired the violence that we all witnessed would be dealt with in accordance with law. I mean, that is the only way we can guarantee a peaceful election on December 7th.
Okay. I mean, that's on the election security. Let's go into the real reason for this. There's a manifesto conversation about this with a few days to go. There are some people who, I mean, they say a government's primary responsibility is to guarantee the safety and security of its people, right? And the MPP came into power on the back of a 2016 manifesto, has a 2020 manifesto. Have you read the 2020 manifesto?
I have.
You must have been surprised yourself that you have virtually nothing in there for 2020. Virtually nothing.
Evans, looking forward. Why do you say we have nothing? There's a lot of meat in the 2020 manifesto.
I'm not talking about where you account for what you've done in 2016 to 2020. I'm talking about a 2020 manifesto that is looking forward to 2021 to 2024. Key commitments made. There's virtually nothing in there.
When we were coming into office in 2016 during our campaign, you just analyzed a lot of promises and you took out what we've not been able to achieve. And you mentioned some of what we've been able to achieve. And so it is still work in progress. We are still the same team. Nothing has changed. We're making sure that the things that we could not achieve, we're going to achieve them. And in 2016, I heard in your analysis that NDCs is comprehensive. Of course, if you are contexting and you're coming from outside, you need to have a proper story to tell. And we have that
But
story.
the disparity is quite shocking. While the NDC has 39 promises, comprehensive, covering everywhere, we struggle to find, in fact, we only managed to find 2. I want to read it to you. 2. Only 2 for security for 2021. You say you continue with the National Barracks Regeneration Program to improve the accommodation of military. 2, continue with these investments. And even that is just, we are trying to find a promise for 2021, 2024. With these investments and continue to invest in new technologies to improve their crime fighting capabilities. That is virtually hard to say it's a commitment for 2021.
There's a lot of commitment because what we have been doing is what we're still doing. That's what we're asking for, a continuity. We haven't changed. So what we premised ourselves with 2016, when we took office in 2017, what we've been doing so far, we've changed none. We're doing everything. I'm sure you would be surprised. I heard your analysis that we have procured 2 turntables. We are no more hydraulic platforms. We've gone beyond turntables in respect of helping restore and fight fire.
Okay.
And they are on ground now to be commissioned. And these will go beyond the normal 6 floors that we have.
Okay.
And go further higher to be able to meet all the kind of high-rise buildings we have in Accra and any other places, which would require us to do those things. So we are delivering on all these things. Just not that. In terms of policy-wise, we said we were going to help improve on the living conditions of security services personnel. Since we've been in office, we have ensured that the National Security Secretariat personnel, their regulations have been enacted. We've ensured that the police service, which we last saw a regulation for them in 2012, we've come to do amendments to ensure that living conditions are well spelled out clearly. We've ensured that Ghana National Fire Service has also gotten her administrative regulations set out. These are living conditions. These are some of the promises we made. We are not done yet. Prison service is still in the kitchen. I'm sure it will have to go into the next parliament. And so that's why I say, when you look at it from this position, because we are continuing and we know what we intend doing and what we are doing, we would not see all these promises. But these are promises we have made to Ghanaians, and we must deliver on them. Remember when we launched our manifesto tracker, we said we haven't completed everything we promised Ghanaians, but we are sure and we believe that we are going to continue with them. That is why we are not bringing a new shopping list to anybody, because what we promised, we've not been able to deliver everything in total, but we have delivered most of them, and we are certain that we will win this election and continue with those promises.
Okay, we'll come to the specifics, but we are talking about the numbers now. Let's play that game a bit. So let me bring in James Agaga on this. So, Mr. Agaga, I look at your manifesto, and you have as many as 39 promises. We went through some in our presentation, analyzing your manifesto earlier. You have everything from providing accommodation to very comprehensive. It's almost unbelievable that you can actually do all that you say you will do with all the costing that we haven't seen in 4 years. You simply have quantity, but not so much evidence of how to execute these.
Evans, first of all, let me state that the MPP in 2016 promised us heaven and earth with respect to the security situation.
That's why you have lost your voice. You didn't say good evening to me. Good evening to you.
But 4 years down the line, we are still faced with growing incidents of insecurity, heightened lawlessness, amounts, elements from the so-called national security outfit. Kidnapping has become the order of the day. We are faced with the threat of terrorism on along our northern frontier. We have paramilitary forces, working side by side the mainstream security. A few days ago, you saw how some elements are suspected to be coming from the national security outfit yanked out a soldier dressed in uniform and beat up the same soldier to pulp. That is the state of insecurity, in our country. Kidnapping is part of the new threats that we have to deal with as a country. All of a sudden, secessionist threats have also read, its ugly head. We've experienced the first armed attack by secessionists in our political history. And so, when we came out with our manifesto, we adopted a piecemeal approach in the sense that we took cognizance of the fact that all the security agencies have their specific needs, and that if we have to transform them, you need to be very specific. And that is exactly what we have done. So if you see 39 promises, we have actually given specifics with respect to the various security agencies of our state. And so, there's no question about our ability to deliver on those promises, given the fact that we have been very specific. So when we take out the armed forces, we have stated clearly what we intend to do in our effort to transform our armed forces into a force that is capable of defending the territorial integrity of our country. We also have a lot to talk about with respect to the police.
Okay, so let's talk about the police.
Very realistic.
Let's talk about it. You say realistic. So you say you establish one police station and barracks in each district where there's none. You build modern offices and accommodation for personnel, especially in newly created regions. Question is, how much is this going to cost you to do this?
Evan, first of all, it's as simple as that. There are a few districts in our country that don't have police stations. So I'll just give you an example. If you take, for instance, the Bulsa South district, they still rely on, we used to be one Bulsa district. Now, Bulsa South was carved out of the Bulsa district, so we now have North and South. But the command is situated within the Bulsa North district. How difficult is it to establish a police command in the Bulsa South district? It's not a big deal. So we have identified these as issues that need to be tackled in order to enhance the management of security in our country.
I want to take you seriously at your word that you can do this. But to do this, I need to get clarity. That's only when anybody who is listening to you can decide if you're being genuine with them. So let me ask you. Establish one police station and barracks in each district where there is none. To say this, to be actually serious about this, you must demonstrate at least that you as we speak around, you know which district has none. Do you know how many districts have none?
Evan, I have just given you an example.
No, you just gave me one. I'm talking. You've just said.
I just gave you an example.
But that's not a promise. The promise is that one police station, barracks in each district where there's none. So how many are you hoping to build now? Because you must know that.
Evan, I have told you, if you take, for instance, the Upper East region, I can tell you which districts in the Upper East region don't have police stations. If you go to the Northern region, I can also tell you which districts haven't got police stations. So if you ask me this specific question, I know. But on top of my head, I wouldn't be able to give you the specific number. But if you were to give me, say, some little time, I can list all the districts that haven't got police stations in this country.
Was this analysis done in couching was this analysis done in couching the promise?
Of course. Evans, you asked me a question, and if I'll be allowed to answer, how much would it cost us to put up a police station? What do you need? You need some accommodation for the personnel. But when you establish, say, the charge office, for a start, you know we give rent allowance to officers. So for a start, the officers wouldn't be housed in barrack accommodation. They would have to rent, and the state would have to pay for the rent, and that is what the state does. Even in Sandema, if you come where there is an established police command, we don't have barrack accommodation for the personnel. In fact, the charged office is there, the offices for the police commander and the CID are there. So this is what we shall do for, say, the SAF. Now, what does it take to put up a police command? Definitely, the costing would be done by architects and engineers. But that cost is not cost that the state would not be able to handle. I mean, putting up a police a building to house, say, the charged office, CID offices, cannot be said to be beyond the capacity of the state. Even in some cases, in most cases, the district assemblies are able to put up those structures. Very recently, in my district, a new police office was put up for the police. The vice president noted that was part of their success story in their manifesto tracker presentation. The only sad thing is that when they stated that one-story building had been completed in Sandema, in actual fact, the project is uncompleted. It's only the ground floor that is completed. So it's not something that is beyond the capacity of the state.
Okay. Let's on this point about track record, I want to come to Mr. Seth Champson, because the Champson, you are seeking re-election, but you've had 4 years to execute a lot of your promises, right? I see you promised to build 2 new police head hospitals at Sunyani and Bogatanga. Hasn't been done, as Ms. Adam Bonner pointed out. You built 2 police training schools. Hasn't been done. Provide equipment to use on high-rise buildings and fire incidents. We don't know it has been done yet. You can confirm it has been done, but from our analysis, it hasn't been. Building 2 precinct service hospitals, 1 each, southern and northern sectors of the country, hasn't been done. Where's the track record?
Thank you very much.
To believe you when you say we should vote for you again.
Those were the promises we made in the Manifesto of 2016 that we've not been able to achieve.
Okay.
You've enumerated only about 6. We made over 50 promises. We have done over 80% of all these. And
80%?
And some that we did not even promise.
Let's be specific here.
Let me come back. Let me come to you. When we came in, the police service, for instance, had just around 492 serviceable vehicles which were operating. Today, we have provided over 740 vehicles for them.
Okay.
That is to help with operations. That aside, come to the military. We have provided in excess of vehicles, not just only for operations within Ghana, but for their wet lease programs. In your analysis, you were talking about what we promised. We promised to increase the peacekeeping allowances for them, which we established. Because you operate a wet lease system, we need to procure equipment. We are not just a troop contributing country. We have to contribute equipment. So as you contribute manpower, you contribute the equipment that the manpower must operate with on ground. We have procured enough for them, and that is ongoing. That not alone. When we inherited on abandoned infrastructure, which we call the barracks regeneration, we put together the contractors. It was just a matter of cash flow, but with prudence, financial management, we've been able to complete a lot of them for them, which are in use, both in the south and both in the north. Police service, same. Immigration service, one is going on down south here in Accra, which is to be commissioned very, very soon. These are things which was not even promised in the manifesto, but we have achieved them. That is infrastructure. What you talked about infrastructure, let me say this. Even in the military, the northern sector hospital that we needed to build, which was approved in the 4th Parliament, which was supposed to start in the 5th Parliament for construction because the loan facility and everything was secured and approved in Parliament in the 4th Parliament. In the 5th Parliament, we danced around it in the entirety of the 5th Parliament, we could not start. It is in the 6th Parliament that it started midstream of the 6th Parliament. And it is still ongoing. This administration inherited and have continued and is about to commission the Afari Northern Clinic for the military. These are procurement processes. And let me face it, and let us all believe in this and understand this. It is the same kitty that we run this economy from. So you need to ensure that you have secured enough funding to do these projects. I'm not going to state COVID because somebody will be telling me it's an excuse, but it's a reality. Most of the expenditures we have done in this year would have, but for COVID, would have given us room to initiate majority of these promises we made. But we could not. But which we did, we are ready and we are talking about them. And that's what I'm speaking to. So I agree that yes, we have not been able to achieve the Bolgantaga and Sunyani, which was in the 2016 manifesto, the 2 police training schools, which we have secured land, we have secured funds, but we have not been able to commence construction of them. It is not the only one, but we are working at them. And let me say this, we will secure funds for a project in this 7th Parliament. The project will start with the next Parliament, which is the 8th Parliament. The procurement in its sense that we are using funds which is borrowed funds takes within a minimum of 24 to 28 months to start. And so you can imagine you inherit an administration and then you have 48 months to work. Already 28 months is to be used to do one procurement. By the time you are done and you get going, the system is run off and you are left off. So some of these promises will be in there, you'll not be able to achieve them and you'll be hit with them. But when you go into the very
I mean, but
measured once.
The NDC then has the same excuse then.
I'm not giving any excuse for myself.
I'm speaking
for my political party, and I'm speaking to the reality.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to. That's why when you said we didn't make so much promises, because you come to inherit an economy, and it's not only for security; it's for the entirety of the state.
But security is primary responsibility of any government.
Absolutely, but you must ensure that you oil every part of the vehicle. And so we operate. Let me say this.
What is it worth?
When we do,
I'm not alive to enjoy it.
You will be very much alive. That is all considered.
The security is
that is all
terrible.
considered. All that is considered. We run a budget which is capped. We always seal. Our budgets are sealed, and we know it. This is no news to any of us here. And so we should not dream from any land. That is the reality we live with. So when you realize that out of these meager resources, we are able to do edifices, infrastructure that is helping us transform, I'm happy.
Okay, now, so let's interrogate this a bit more. All that you claim you've done in terms of police equipment, resources, must have an outcome. The outcome must be an improvement in the security of the people. Okay, and Manifesto Tracker this year, we're pushing the boundaries to say a lot of the manifestos are too input oriented, and they don't think so much about the outcome. I mean, so we want to get there where you link the input to an outcome, because then that's where you can measure it. For security, you have to measure it in, are the people safe? But that's what it boils down to. So all your vehicles you've talked about, the helicopter you say you're buying, the buildings you say you're building, if I'm still unsafe, you haven't done much, really. You can just point to buildings, but I'm still unsafe. The crime statistics is where you have to go to see what the story is there. The police data, unfortunately, gives us up to 2018. I don't have the last 2 years. But it tells a story, right? I mean, in 2016, when the NDC were leaving office, robbery cases were at 1,397. That's in 2016. Murder was 549. In 2018, where the last data is currently, which I have, robbery has shot up to 1,919. If you have the latest 2020 figures, I would love to have it. But this is the data that the police gave us. This is the latest that they have. I'm sure they were compiled, but probably haven't published. Murder has dropped slightly to 500. It used to be 549 the last time NDC was in office. But you see, robbery has gone up by more than 400 robbery cases plus what it used to be. That tells you a story, right? I mean, the NDC were doing better in 2016 in terms of the robbery numbers than you were doing in 2018, where the statistics says. What's your response to that?
Thank you very much, Evans. I would not run away from it because the population keeps increasing. And
you blame the population?
It's a reflection of who we are. Who causes crime? It is us. So the more we increase, the more our number multiplies. Clearly, the statistics shows crime will increase. And as you do well, crime goes higher. Ghana is not the only land that suffers crime. Look at the statistics across the globe. Every country that does well suffers crime, and the crime must be checked. I always make this statement: there is no 100% foolproof state of security. We work to prevent.
What you're saying is an admission of failure.
Minimize. That is your.
You're finding an excuse.
This is
for why robbery cases have gone up.
No way.
From 2016 to 2018.
Wait. Let's check the statistics. Check the statistics.
I've just told you what the statistics.
Yes, but the statistics at what percentage? At what margin is the increment?
No, but there's an increase.
Yes, of course, there's an increase.
In 2016, when NDC were leaving, they left you 1,397 terrible robbery cases. 2017, when you took power, first year, you shot up to 1,772. 2018 went up even further, 1,919. That is a terrible story to tell about a government that says we have invested the most in providing the police with equipment, logistics, infrastructure, etc. That should lead to a positive outcome in terms of the crime numbers, at least for the 2018 numbers. I haven't seen 2019, 2020, so I can't speak to it. If you have it, I'd love to have it. But at least that data tells us a different story.
Evans, what else can I say but speak the truth and the reality? At every transition, go back to the statistics between 2012 and 2013 and look at how it went.
Because in 2012, it was 1,126, and 2013 shot up to 1,257.
Exactly.
So your point is? The
point is that year on year, when there's a transition, there is an increase in crime. But, wait a minute, but the system adjusts as we go along.
This actually doesn't bear you out.
No, let me
because no, but it should.
I'm looking for statistics.
Because in 2014,
I don't have your scroll. I'm looking for statistics that I
no, but we can pull it. I'll bring a Gaga so they can pull it. Hold on, because I'll come back to that and challenge.
This is robbery, right?
This is robbery.
In 20, wait a minute. 20.
Look for it. Let me bring Gaga. Mr. Gaga,
I have robbery for 2018.
You have it.
What's your figure for 2018?
2018 says 1919.
No. Okay.
Robbery.
This is entire robbery.
This is robbery. Look at national. Let me bring Gaga so you look for it. Mr. Gaga, so the outcome is the crime statistics, right? Of course. I mean, it shows a certain worsening of it in 2018. I'm putting this caveat. I haven't seen 2019, 2020. I mean, but again, if you flip it to murder, this government has done better with that particular indicator than you did in 2016. You were at 549 murder cases. They've managed to bring that down to 500.
Evan, the figures for 2019 are even more alarming.
To what you asked.
No,
no, Evan.
Quote the source though, because we struggled to find a 2019 figure. You have it.
Evan, just a second.
Okay.
Those figures are even more alarming. They published the figures for 2019 for only the first quarter.
Okay.
And the figures that were recorded were so alarming that I think the police must have been ordered to stop the publication.
Well, what are the figures? What are the figures? I want to hear it.
I don't have those figures here.
Oh, I'm sorry, but I can't work with what you don't have.
Evan, I've dealt with those figures and even tendered them in. They are part of the records of Parliament in one of our debates. Seth would bear me out. Yes, absolutely.
Seth, is it true? No, hold on. Let me check with him. Is that true?
What did he say?
Yes.
He says that those figures came to Parliament. You could bear him out.
The speaker admitted them. Seth knows that for a fact.
James, I'm not debating you on this. I agree that our crime statistics as a country has not been the best, but we are not living in a state of anarchy. And that is one fact I always say, and I will not run away from, because I'm proud to state so. Evans.
But sorry, it is his stand. I wanted to clarify, so you've confirmed. So
Evans.
Yeah.
So you see, I was not lying after all.
No, but you don't have the figures accurately.
Evans, having said that, Evans. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Evans, let me state that it is not even true that the NPP has invested more in the security sector than an NDC government. Let me refute the point Seth made earlier. It's not to hijack the military hospital project at Afari as theirs. And let me indicate that this matter came up for debate before the floor of Parliament. I have researched, I've come through the Hansard in the fourth Parliament, and there was no approval, mark my word, no approval of any loan agreement for the commencement of
If you make a note for me, I'll come to you so you can respond to that.
Started that project, and by the end of 2016, when we were leaving office, works were 80% complete. That will bear me out. Now, that project is being undertaken by Euroject. When the NPP came to office, they abandoned the project in the name of doing what? Audit for value for money audit, which took us 4 years. As we speak, the project is still not completed. So it is not true that the NDC did not invest in logistics for the security services. Look, between 2010 and 2016, the NDC procured over 1,500 vehicles for the police alone, for the police service alone. And I say these things on authority. They have only procured 705 vehicles, and they want us to applaud them. So it is not for nothing that we recorded low figures in terms of crime rate when we were in office from 2012 to 2016. It is because we also invested in the security agencies. Even the military was retooled. So aircraft, helicopters were bought for the armed forces. They have stated that their performance tracker, that they have brought hydraulic platforms for the fire service. I don't know of the delivery of any platform, hydraulic platform. Recently, when we engaged, we asked about those platforms, and there was no response from their end. So I'm surprised that Seth is saying some deliveries have been made and that the platform will be commissioned pretty soon. So, Evan, let's be very truthful in this.
No, I mean, just speak to it.
Let me also
speak to it. I'll come to you shortly, so you can speak to it.
Talked about an increase in peacekeeping allowance. If he has his 2016 manifesto with him, let him open the pages on increase or increment in peacekeeping allowances, and ever you find that the increment was actually effected by the NDC government. First, it was effected $1 was what we increased the figure from 30 to 31, and people were not satisfied. So we added $4 additional, and that brought up the figure to $35. Sadly, the NPP all of a sudden, in their performance tracker, are claiming that they are the ones who did the increment. It's not true. Once again, this matter came up before Parliament for a debate. But, Evan, having said all these things, I think it is important for us to acknowledge one thing, that when it comes to the management of crime in our country, we have not been fought right under the NPP government. Let's look at the mode of recruitment into the security services. The processes have been shrouded with so much opacity, and my good friend Seth would admit that ever since they took over power, there have not been any advertisements when it comes to recruitment into the security agencies. So what type of personnel are we recruiting into the agencies? They talked about backlogs, but the truth of the matter is that you cannot declare it backlog for 4 years. Even if they have one single publication ever since they assumed the reins of power, one publication which is in the form of an advert for recruitment into any of the security agencies, let's set produce it. So, I mean, the way and manner they have managed our country's security leaves much to be desired.
Okay, just hold on.
The result is the increase, exponential increase in crime rate.
Okay,
they must admit that there is a correlation between the way they are managing our security and crime rate.
He admits that the statistics speak for themselves. So your reaction to that? I'll take a quick break after that.
Of which of the reactions? Because he said a lot I want to react to.
You may, yes.
I made a huge no. This is the hydraulic platform at Tema Harbour.
That allows you to...
That allows us to fight fire beyond 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 floors.
Okay, so
we've never had this. It's here.
He's showing me a picture.
It's in Ghana.
I can see the picture. I can't confirm if this is Ghana or not.
I want to put in my integrity here before everybody watching us. Get me men. I'll work with you tomorrow to go and film it for your news, so that it settles the record. I don't need to come and sit here and say further.
You'll be available for this.
I'm available for you.
This is the first time we're investing in this.
I am available for you tomorrow morning. I'll walk your cameras straight to look at the edifice.
How many do we buy?
2.
For the whole country?
Yes.
How?
It is custom made. You don't just walk in. We ordered this over 18 months before they develop them for you. So that is how you order.
How are you going to distribute? Is it Southern Sector 1, Northern Sector 1?
Primarily, we have high rises in Southern Sector.
Southern Sector, okay.
But let me move on. James says he's never heard of advertisement, but they were able to chastise us that we were cheating Ghanaians and that we sold forms to people and that it was over and above. I'm sure because he's been campaigning, he's not reading his newspapers. So he's forgotten that in 2017, we advertised, and even in immigration alone, we had over 87,000 people buying, and we're chastised that we can't take all of them because we had only clearance for only 1,000 people to recruit.
And you sold the forms and people said...
But the point was this, you had to open up to the people, transparency. Under us, there's never been any issue with recruitment that we used to experience in the past, that people got interdicted in the services. It has never happened under our watch. It has never happened. So this is what we promised we were going to do, and that's what we are doing. And so when we say a backlog, we are not running away from the truth and the fact, and that is the fact. The next point is that Afari, I want James to go back into his answer. Me, when I became an MP in the 5th Parliament, my first submission was on Afari. When the then Minister of Defense...
What is Afari?
Afari is the Northern Sector Military Hospital.
Okay.
When the then Minister of Defense, General Smith, retired, wanted to relocate it from the Northern Sector to bring it to 37. And then I had to stand on the House that it can only be done by a rescission motion. The reasons were that the House had approved it in the 4th Parliament. And in the 5th Parliament, it can never happen. It is a matter we had decided it is for the Northern Sector. It is not for the Southern Sector. The records are there. The Hansard is there. He needs to do further checks. I speak on authority. He remember, when the debate ensued, I had presented a committee report. And I couldn't come back to debate him. And most of my folks I gave the facts to could not speak. But this is the reality. This is a matter. John Ejekum Kufuor's administration secured the funds. Eurojet.
He says they secured
now
80% of the
he
job.
mentioned further, there has been a variation order. This is pure contract administration. There has been a variation order that it is going to be before us now, which will allow Eurojet to continue with where he has gotten to. In terms of these construction administration, some of the time, your initial estimate cannot be able to complete the project because of what you do with the scope. You can widen the scope, you are allowed once you have the wherewithal, if you can fund it. And this is where we've gotten to. There is a variation order that Eurojet is seeking. The Ministry of Finance has worked on it. I'm aware it is before debt management to ensure that we as a country is fully cleared, and then to come before our committee and we approve it for them to go and complete the project. Okay. So this is nothing new. This is not from anywhere.
I want to take a quick break. When I return, there are a few questions we got from police officers who are interested in the two parties, what they are promising. I'll put it to both of them. Stay with me. Yeah, thank you very much for staying with us. Just a few minutes to wrap up. I want to take your final comments, but I have I want to bring in some of the key questions that the police officers who anonymously have sent us this. One of the big things that have come up, in the analysis is the Cap 30. And they asked the question, please kindly ask both NDC and MPP about Cap 30. I'm a police officer. The MPP government said they are going to restore the Cap 30, and they deceived us. And it's not also in their 2020 manifesto. Can he answer to that? Please ask the MPP man if the government have deceived us.
There's nothing like government winning the security service of Cap 30. We got this intelligence, and the Minister of Information was instructed to...
Have we restored it?
Yes. It is not taking that. There's nothing like a restoration.
Okay.
The
so
security services...
You didn't do anything to it?
No. They were rather apprehensive that this government was going to take them off Cap 30. They are not one of the categories of public service personnel who have been taken off Cap 30. There are new measures because of the pension regulation regime.
But the Cap 30 still is...
The Cap 30 is still in place for the
Okay, so but that's interesting. Mr. Gaga, very briefly, but you promised in the NDC manifesto that you would restore it, right? But your chairman says it's already there, so what are you restoring?
Evan, in 2008, an NPP government amended the Labour Act and took out the police service and other security agencies and left out only the armed forces as the only security, if you like, institution which would continue to benefit as Cap 30, if you like, beneficiaries. So that law itself, when the NDC took over power in 2009, never enforced it. What has actually caused the uproar among the security agencies is that sometime last year, the Deputy Minister for Employment appeared before the Public Accounts Committee and announced to the whole world that President Akufo-Addo's cabinet had taken a decision to migrate all the security agencies from the capacity pension scheme under the Labour Act and leave only the military as the sole beneficiary. That was what caused
So what are you promising to do in 2021?
Now, what we are promising to do is to maintain the police service on the capacity pension scheme by amending the Labour Act 2008. Kwajo Ponkroma, the information minister, held a press conference and gave indication that they were also going to amend the same law they had passed in 2008.
See, we are speaking on the same subject. But you see, let me correct one thing that James said. That's what James said. We, in fact, increased the military allowances on peacekeeping. It is not NDC.
Gentlemen,
so they are running away. We have done nothing. He has just come to corroborate.
In the next few days, we have this support. Enjoy the rest of your evening.